Okay, let's talk about a huge national experiment, one that's been going on for 30 years. It all started back in the mid-90s when we began handing over essential public services, things we all count on, to private companies. We're going to dig into how this all went down, what it really cost, and what we might have lost along the way.
This quote, wow, it really nails the central theme here. A national shift that placed profit above public duty. That is a heavy statement. It suggests a massive change in what we, as a country, decided was important. So let's really unpack what that means. So, you might be asking, how did they sell this idea to everyone? Well, the pitch was pretty simple. Private companies would be more efficient, and they'd save taxpayers money. Sounds good, right? But now, after 3 decades, the reality, it looks a lot different. We're talking about a system that often operates in the dark, with almost no real accountability. And that's the core conflict we're going to explore. Okay, let's rewind a bit back to the beginning. The idea being pushed was really straightforward. Let the free market do its thing. The thinking was that competition would naturally make services like prisons and hospitals better and cheaper than the government could. And honestly, it's a pretty compelling idea on the surface. You know, this whole thing didn't just appear out of nowhere. It was sneaky. It started quietly, going after services that most of us don't see every day. Things like medical care inside jails or how probation gets managed. It was a gradual creep, happening just outside the public spotlight.
And once those first few pieces were in place, well, that's when the money really started to flow. Let's take a look at the numbers from just those first few years. You can see just how fast this turned into a seriously profitable business.
Get this, by 1996, this brand new industry was already clearing an estimated $200 million in profit every single year. All of a sudden, the whole conversation wasn't just about efficiency anymore. It was about a massive financial windfall. But look, $200 million, it's just a number, right? Let's make it real. What does that kind of money actually buy? And more importantly, what did we give up to let that profit happen? What was the real trade-off here? That's the real kicker, isn't it? That profit represents a huge opportunity we missed. That money could have gone into things we actually need, like hiring more doctors and nurses, funding real mental health programs, or even paying for the government oversight to make sure these systems were working right. But instead, that money was just gone. So if the 90s were the little spark that started this whole thing, the 2000s, man, that was the explosion. This is the decade when privatization went from being a small experiment to a full-blown billion-dollar industry. Just look at these numbers. The growth here is absolutely wild. Profits more than doubled by 2001, and by 2010, they blew past $1 billion a year. We're not talking about slow growth. This was a rocket ship. This was a gold rush.
So you're probably wondering, how on earth did it grow that fast? Well, the strategy was kind of brilliant in a way. Control everything. Private companies didn't just take over the big-ticket items like healthcare. No, they took over everything down to the food people ate and the phone calls they made. Every single part of the system became another revenue stream, basically creating private monopolies inside our public institutions.
Let that sink in for a second. By 2010, over $1 billion. With a B, every single year pulled out of our public services. That is a milestone that completely changed the entire game. So yeah, we have to ask that what-if question again, but now the stakes are just so much higher. What could $1 billion of public money actually accomplish? And we're not just talking about funding a few small programs anymore. $1 billion a year could literally build new medical schools, create thousands of local jobs, or properly fund mental health care for our veterans. The scale of what we were losing, it had become truly immense. Okay, so that's the history. But this isn't some old story. This brings us to right now, because this 30-year trend has very real, very tangible consequences that people are feeling today. And you might think things would have leveled off, right? Nope, it hit the gas. The profit boom just went into overdrive. It went from $1.8 billion in 2015 to a projected $4 billion by 2025. The business of providing public services is more profitable right now than it has ever been. And this is what happens when profit becomes the main goal. It's not just numbers on a spreadsheet. It's real people, real families, and real consequences. People not getting their medication,
families getting charged unbelievable rates for a simple phone call, and no real way to hold these private companies accountable when things go wrong. All right, so as we start to put all these pieces together, it's so important to get this one thing. The real cost here is way bigger than just money. It's about something much, much bigger than that. But first, let's just look at the final tally. The total price tag for this whole 30-year ride, somewhere between $40 and $55 billion. That is not a budget. That is a fortune built on public money. That is just a mind-boggling amount of money. And it's not just dollars and cents. It represents what we could have had. Decades of lost funding for local jobs, a system with weaker protections for civil rights, and a massive missed opportunity to build a modern justice and healthcare system that works for everyone. Look, at the end of the day, you can throw politics out the window. This isn't about left or right. It's about a simple American idea: accountability. When we hand over our public duties, who's actually responsible when it all goes sideways? That loss of trust and oversight, that affects every single one of us. And that leaves us with one final and really crucial question. When a nation outsources its most basic responsibilities, what's the final price that all of us end up paying?